So I invite my panelists to the stage. Where's Martin? Yes, we have everybody. That's a success already. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to have such a distinguished panel put together with me. And let me introduce them. We have Helen Milner, NED, advisor, trustee, founder of Good Things Foundation, together with us, who has a special story with Riga today, and we hope to hear that story from you as well. We have Evghenia Iarina, who is the Strategic Partnerships Director at Coursera. We have Marta Florczak, the Senior Vice President for Employee Lifecycle at Lidl International, Germany. And close to me, Maarten, the Chair of Executive Board at UWV, which is Public Employment Service in the Netherlands. Hello. And we heard two presentations before. I would like to say hello by a glimpse of older workers and those with the 40 plus, a very vulnerable age right now. So that's the panel, and we'll try to make it very productive, effective to understand what do we do, how do we stay relevant. As we just heard that Europe's labor markets face a paradox. We are at the record high of employment, but we also have shrinking labor pools. So the older 40 plus generation is the untapped potential and resource for skills, for productivity, for innovation. But when we look at the mid and later career workers, unlocking this pool requires learning systems that actually work for adults, that are useful for us. So today during the panel, we try to be very practical, pragmatic, to learn what actually works for us to stay effective and productive. And the first question to all of you, across your field of work, which is very, very diverse, what is the single biggest barrier preventing mid and late career workers from actually successfully reskilling today in the age of AI? And what has proven the most effective in doing so? Who wants to start?
Hi. So the work at Good Things Foundation, so I'm the founder of Good Things Foundation, but this is my first day of retirement. Okay, so this is what retirement looks like for me. Oh, thank you, thank you. I would say, and I found the presentation from Singapore inspiring. So many people today have already been inspiring, but if we think about supply and demand, too often we focus on supply, not enough on demand. And so in my work, we have helped millions of people who are the untapped talent, I would like to say, who have low-skilled work, who have low educational attainment, who have low incomes. And for them, they are most likely to have the least money spent on them for training. Their employer is less likely to support them. But also they have very little experience of being invested in training. And so it's not just about putting on courses and telling people that they're available. You have to work on the demand side. So if you have people who are, don't expect anything, they have low confidence, have low self-esteem, they're not used to people supporting them to do training and to do lifelong learning, then you actually have to build that confidence and that self-esteem. You have to ensure that it's relevant. So within the work of Good Things Foundation, it's about helping people where they are, but with peers, people like them, focused on what they're interested in. So it's personalized, it's self-paced, but it's importantly both online, but it's also in person. So this is not classrooms, this is not necessarily just individuals. The work of Good Things Foundation, we work in the UK with 8,000 hyper-local organisations, all independent from us in the UK. In Australia, we have 3,000. So this is places where people can go to actually get support from people like them. So it's about working on that supply side. Interestingly, in women in tech, the UK government has just is investing 40 million for women, and they're helping women in placements, but also in coaching. Because in my experience, again, coaching, I've learned the most in my lifelong learning with a coach, because it's personalized and it's self-paced. But that's because I'm an executive, people invest in my coaching. So that's what the UK government is doing with women in tech.
I would say that from our standpoint of view, there are two reasons for that. One is external and one is internal. Internal is human nature. So as we saw today, many of us are confident that we're good for the next 5 years. And I link it to the psychological stages, and I think people in mid-careers are still in denial stage, and hopefully we do not need to anticipate more shocks to accelerate. And the external factor that we're observing are the conditions created for this upskilling and reskilling by companies, because we are working from 9 to 6 to 8 to 9, and not often we have time to reskill and upskill. And the same conditions should be created by governments, and happy to elaborate later on.
I have a quick question. How many of us in the audience are confident we're well-skilled for the next 5 years? That is, I guess, different answer than we would have received in the morning.
But continuing what my predecessor said, I think that, one is our experience that is barrier for us to develop further, and we need to learn to unlearn as well. Because if we want to learn new skills, and especially in terms of AI, we need to unlearn or really, give up what holds us back, like previous experience, competencies, skills. On the other hand, looking at the audience here and looking who was on stage, I haven't seen so many people 25 plus being on stage and talking about AI, yes? So if we talk about all the workers or 40 plus, I would really put as well this message to all this organization represented here, that we need to change as well the perception of this workers on the market, because maybe 20 years ago, I could agree with the perception that we have right now, but there are well-skilled people who are being here on the stage and talking about AI. So I think that as well, we need to change the perception of people 40 plus on the market.
Yeah, I can only underline that. I think many people miss a long-term perspective, thinking that they can continue the work that they're doing now until their retirement. And the same actually holds for employers who think, well, everything is going all right, we are adapting to the market, but things may change even more than they expect. And do they also really deal with their employees to adapt these employees to changing circumstances in the market and for the employees themselves because they get older? So there's a responsibility for the employee and for the employer to do more on training, and because they don't really think about it, it's maybe something for someone else. Because the business is going well and you expect you can go on until your retirement, people don't do enough about it.
There is a constant debate, employees, employers, government, who's responsible for the training. But do we actually, I want to turn to Evghenia, do we actually see, you have millions of data points, right, to understand what the mid-age professionals are learning today? What are the surprising trends do you see? Is there a fear of us, let's say, turning and learning and upskilling and investing into the future relevant of us?
Well, I wouldn't say there are surprises, because we still have our old beloved normal distribution when it comes to the age distribution in learning, online learning. So we would expect like younger people at the one side of the tail, and then most of our learners are between 30 and 40 years old, and then the curve is going down. So this is the good news, because if there is no normal distribution, it means something is going on. But what's interesting in terms of observations is that there is increase in enrollment, so globally, especially in Gen AI courses. So currently we have 14 enrollments per minute in Gen AI courses, and of course it's driven by younger and mid-career and older population. But I think we are the first generation when in our mid-careers, and I count myself in, need to start learning hard skills again, because the previous trends at Coursera that we observed when you're in your mid-careers and you're requiring training, you're going for leadership skills, you're going for change management skills, you're going for negotiation skills. Today, we start contributing again a lot of efforts towards training into some hard skill, acquiring new software skills and things like that. But there is a positive to this as well. So one trend, we see people in their 40s, 50s, 60s learning hard skills again. And another trend is that we've seen 184% increase in critical thinking enrollments. And this is driven by mid-career learners. And I guess the reason for that is that we know the importance of critical thinking, especially through the lens of AI, much more than the younger generations who are normally engaged into like super practical, acquiring quick skills, how to do things, while we are thinking in terms of, okay, how do we build processes, how do we build strategies? And I think these are good news for us in terms of that we might be even more competitive.
I wanted to turn in from the employer's perspective. Marta, today in the presentation of the World Economic Forum, we saw that the first specialty to disappear is actually the cashiers. Is it so? What are you doing to ensure lifelong learning?
I was surprised to see this data as well, because we do not believe in this. I represent a company that employs 380,000 people. So, you know, our responsibility as the employer is to prepare our employees for the future. It means reskill, but upskill as well. And if you enter our stores, you see as well that they're changing. We have a lot of self-checkouts, we have self-scanning, so we need to prepare our employees as well for this technology. So when we really think about, you know, our employees at stores, the cashier, they need to have critical thinking, they need to operate or analyze real-time data, because they take care of inventory, they need to analyze data, so it's not really only cashier job. And additionally, you know, they need to have this basic, I would say, AI skills concerning critical thinking, but as well interpreting data, but as well technical troubleshooting and basic troubleshooting and technical resilience. Because of all the data and systems that are in store, they need to operate it. Additional point is as well the customer that is changing in our stores. You know, we do not deal only with the customers coming to our stores, but we have this digital fulfillment, we have omni-channel customers, we have click and collect. So actually, you know, our employees need to be skilled in different areas, how to deal as well with this omni-channel customer. So it's not only really cashier job. And I do not think that it will disappear, because as well, many customers are coming in different countries to talk to the people in stores, you know, because of this, you know, aging population. Sometimes they are alone at home. And we see that this cashier job is not only, you know, to put the products through the line, but as well to talk to the customers and create positive customer experience. So it's more than we see that we need to invest in digital skills for our people, especially in the stores, but we do not believe that this job will disappear. They will change, they will evolve, but they will not disappear.
And that's the point when you take a really, really large employer, right? But what we saw today about SMEs market, such a huge backbone of economy is SMEs market. I would like to turn to Maarten. So unemployment support is pretty clear function of the labor institutions, but how do you think the public sector could service the mid-career transitions? What are successful examples in doing it? And especially, what are successful examples in doing it at scale?
Well, looking at the work that we do as a public employment service, we are mainly focused on people who have lost their job. And then we were actually too late in many cases. I mean, it's much better to invest in prevention to avoid people from getting unemployed, so that they can move from one job to another, either within a company or into another company. And therefore, we need policies in the businesses, in the companies. Well, for a large company like Lidl, that is clear. We see that large companies do a lot on that. But as you say, most people work in small and medium-sized enterprises, so they need some other support. And therefore, it would be, there are good examples of public employment services who provide this additional service to employees and employers, to give them information, to give them advice, to help them with reskilling or upskilling, and also to help them from one job to another before they even have applied for an unemployment benefit at the moment that they're still in a job, so they can move from one place to another. And that's where you can actually help people to change their career in the midst of their career, instead of losing their job and then hoping to find another one. That's more difficult. It's more difficult to find a job for unemployment than it is when you already have one. So therefore, it's good to invest in training, and where employers and employees cannot do this together, they must be able to to use the support from the public service, not because it's not just because it's important for them, but it's also important for society. I mean, it's in nobody's interest that people are not being as productive as they can, and that they lose their job and maybe stay out of work for too long a time.
It is always, like, it always lies in between public services, employment's responsibility, and individuals' responsibility to transition from point A to point B. But what realistically this pathway looks like? Because we all hear many programs could be provided, right, by the public services, by some employers, by the grassroots initiatives. But usually we avoid speaking about the real challenges, what it takes, well-being, doesn't matter, 40, 50, 60 plus, to actually retransition. Helen, you worked with lots of different communities, right? What are the key learning points that you took from various initiatives? What realistic pathway looks like when you are transitioning?
Absolutely. I think that, so my work has always been on, I like the phrase untapped potential, right? And so that the lowest common denominator, if you think about the line and then you go lower. So for example, it's both about it being highly personalized, but also scaled. So millions of people, the initiatives I've started have supported. So you scale. But for example, all of the online learning materials that we've produced at Good Things Foundation has a reading age of 8. And it also has text-to-speech, right? So if you can't read at the age of 8, you can listen to it. It's all super, super simple. Very, very simple. So think about simple and then make it more simple, right? The AI gateway that we created with Accenture, it's cartoons. It's about what is AI, when to use AI, when not to use AI. And so, but again, we didn't say, well, we're looking at people who have very low skills, who might not have any qualifications. They don't care about AI. We said, we think they care about AI, so let's make sure that we've got content around AI. And then you make that available to thousands of communities. So practically, it's to say, let's imagine a world that works for everybody, And then what are the barriers? So literacy, I've already spoken about. And then obviously around confidence. So you need to make sure that that person has a guide, has a mentor, has a champion, has somebody like them who can support them, who can encourage them, who can tell them that they can do it, right? And so that you go, well, that's very expensive. But actually, the work that we do, we work in communities with community organizations, but we also work in the public sector, for example, with midwives and with banks. And all of those places are places where people already are. So some of them are sole traders, they're SMEs, they're people who work part-time. So it's not at the workplace, but it is in their community. So that they're supported at the place of need. So they're supported when they say, I'm sorry, I can't do that. Or I'm sorry, I can't afford it, because Good Things Foundation also helps people with SIM cards and with devices. We did a program around pathways from informal learning to formal learning. And we anticipated that half of the people, these are all people who are unemployed, but we anticipated that half of them wouldn't have the equipment that they would need to do the learning, for the learning and for the job searching. And actually 80%, so 80% of them did not have a device that was suitable for learning. When the pandemic hit, we saw a massive increase in people coming to our online learning materials who were in work, but we also asked them, why are you coming to us online? And they said, oh, my employer says I need to work from home, but I don't know how to. My employer says I need to use video conferencing, but I don't know what that is. Yeah. And so actually there was this massive growth in people coming, looking for that super, super simple, very basic stuff, because their employers had just said, go home and turn your laptop on. And they said, I don't have a laptop. Yeah. Right? And so actually it's do not underestimate. In the UK, there are 10 million people of working age who do not have the equipment or the skills that they need to function. And so actually, do not underestimate the level of digital exclusion in your workforce.
Thank you, Helen. I think we touched this underprivileged communities, vulnerable communities, and there's also a vast potential of talents that are right now working potentially with the SMEs or you name it, that particularly might not have access to the training. With Women Go Tech, we did a research a couple of years ago, so a little bit maybe old data, but still we were surprised to see that over 12% of respondents told us that they have not received a training on AI from their employer or any guidance on how to use the tools within their work. So there's a lot of demand for training from anywhere it comes, not only by the vulnerable communities, but also by existing and working communities. Evghenia, maybe a quick note from your side. Have you observed differences like in how AI changed the learning, how we consume the learning, how we search for the learning?
Yes, definitely. I'm just looking at this clock ticking and becoming super nervous how to fit it all. Yeah. So let me try to be concise. So I think, and I'm optimistic again in this respect, because online learning became more engaging, more relevant, and more accessible. In what way? So according to OECD and Coursera skills taxonomy, it takes around 100 hours to acquire bridge skills into new jobs. And even if an individual is able to distribute like 4 hours per week, it's still quite a lonely and lengthy journey. So modern personalized AI tutors are making this experience much more engaging. So learners can ask questions, how is it relevant to my personal situation, to my personal educational background, and so on and so forth. Second, the modern diagnostic tools allow learners to actually take the pre-assessment and then switch to modular training when they do not need to complete the entire certification, but just consume the bits that are relevant to their current situation and current objectives. Third, the language access. I work a lot with public administrations, and surprise, surprise, language is still the barrier in many sectors, especially when it comes to the public sector. And what we've seen during the last couple of years, most of the courses, they've been at least subtitled with 20+ languages. Currently, there is a roadmap to do machine translation, dubbing, and things like that. So if you take into account all these innovations, so currently, if you're in your mid-careers, you get super engaged, super relevant training, and at the end, you get micro-credentials that are sending signals to your employers that you acquired the skills.
Maybe I will just build up on what Evghenia said. You know, last year, just some figures and facts. Last year, we delivered 8 million digital training sessions to our employees. So you see that the number is quite huge. 7.5, it was digital online, and only 500, it was physical training. So actually the preference of the people is as well to be more online, to have more online training and not only this face-to-face. Additionally, different forms and mainly embedded in their daily work. There are not really trainings after the work, after working hours, but embedded in their daily work that it's not really so visible to the employees that they are learning new skills. What Evghenia said, micro-credential, micro-staging, really small forms of learning, sometimes with QR code that they can really scan and watch the film if they do not use the skills quite often. So there are different forms, and actually we can use all of them to prepare our employees for the future.
We are nearly out of time. We have the zeros here, but for the very, very last round, 1 word, 2 words, max 3 words answer. But before that, there's one we did with Women Go Tech AI Foundations program, and there's one review that I want to read from Svetlana. She's from Serbia, 56 years old, and her note was, "This is my practical task number 4. It took me 2 days to get familiar with the new tools, but in the end, I managed to achieve exactly what I wanted. I'm very proud of myself because I successfully created an automated workflow that connects Google Drive, Google Sheets, and Google Apps Script, turning manual daily tasks into an intelligent, self-running system." She did that without a proper digital literacy before the course. So the quick question to all of you, what one thing that has to change, either in public policy or in businesses or in our educational systems, that would help such lifelong learning actually work in practice? What do you think is required?
I would say consciousness, that people are really aware that this is what is necessary and that it can be helpful. Consciousness with employers, the large ones mostly know it already, but consciousness with small and medium-sized enterprise, and consciousness with employees and all the other people who are looking for work and who can be supported by any way of training.
Thank you.
I would say, and it was mentioned multiple times today, is the speed, because again, machines, they can perform the analysis now. So this pre-launch stage is accelerated now. We can quickly analyze what needs to be done, in which directions, in terms of the numbers and so on and so forth. So let's accelerate the implementation stage.
I would say once is responsibility of the employer, because we have many people already employed, and it's our responsibility to keep them, you know, ready for a new task that will come. So it's as well our responsibility, but from the individual, there's readiness for lifelong learning, curiosity, but as well really we have different stages of our careers through our life, and we need to be aware of this and better to prepare than, you know, further to regret. So openness and curiosity.
And so I came to Riga 20 years ago and painted this mug, and I had a dream to found a charity to help digitally excluded people. 20 years later, I founded 2 charities, helped more than 3 million people. So I would say we need to dream big, right? And that, in Singapore, they have a social compact, right? Let's just remember that technology helps people to create the society that we want, and we have to dream big about a new society, because if we keep going, if we pretend nothing is happening, we will not get that society. So let's all dream big about the kind of society we want and what kind of technology will underpin that.
Let's dream big, but let's not avoid individual responsibility to actually make it happen. Thank you very much to the panel and to all of you.